Hey, welcome to the Harry Man Show number 23, where once there is definitely not enough. Today we have a guest, Randy Rask. He's a drummer on the Phoenix scene here, also a big part of the Phoenix area drum page. He's a great guy. Well, how's it going, Randy?
Good. Doing great.
Good, yeah. It's great to have you on, and I know you're a little bit of a distance right now, but it's really appreciate you being here.
No problem. I happen to be sitting in a hotel room outside of Honolulu, Hawaii.
Doesn't sound too bad.
It could be better, probably. There's a quarantine going on, so I'm not supposed to go anywhere. I might sneak out a little later, just drive around and see this guys. Came over here for a quick job. Coming home tomorrow.
Yeah, so we'll touch base on it a little bit, but I kind of want to get what got you into playing drums in the first place.
I started in the 5th grade at school band. The music teacher came in the room, asked who wanted to be in the band, what instrument they wanted to play. My uncle was a drummer in the 60s, played in surf bands, and had a drum kit, so it just that's where I went.
Oh, nice. And did you use that drum set, or he gave you a snare to use?
So my parents didn't have the money to buy a drum, or they didn't want to rent one, so we talked to him, and he took the snare drum off of his kit, and we put it in a suitcase because it was a Ludwig. We didn't have the clamshell case at the time, so we put it in a suitcase and with the stand, and I carried that thing back and forth to school, probably 3/4 of a mile each way, twice a week for the whole year of 5th grade.
Yeah, that would definitely build some calluses for you in the first place. Get it going for you.
Definitely. We won't even let our kids walk to school across the street anymore by themselves, and I carried a drum for 3/4 of a mile each way.
Yeah, I remember
by myself.
I remember having to carry them just without a case, and your fingers on the rim, no blood after about 20 minutes. So I feel you there. But the suitcase, that was those Gretsch kits or the Gretsch snares used to come in a suitcase style. So yeah, probably pretty much fit in at that point. That's what worked for you.
Yep.
All right. And then did you continue to play through school, or did you drop off and get back into it?
Well, kind of both. But first, I went from 5th grade. I went into junior high the next year and played in the concert band all through junior high, and then high school joined marching band and the concert band and played and marched for all 4 years of high school. And that's as a freshman is when I actually started playing the drum kit. I didn't have like I said, my parents didn't have the money. My uncle, I don't think, didn't want to give me his whole Ludwig drum kit. So I as a freshman, we finally got the money and we rented a drum kit. I think it was a Royce, and we rented that, and then I started playing in the jazz band to play the kit, and did that all the way through high school, and then got a job at a music store actually when I was about 15, and bought a Tama Imperial Star through that music store and kind of paid it off.
Oh, nice.
Just working there, and that was my first real drum kit, and I still have it today. In fact, my grandson has it in his bedroom.
Oh, yeah, that's the one I played on. That's pretty nice.
You have seen that drum kit.
Yeah. That's a really nice drum set, yeah. And that was probably
1980.
Yeah, and that's when Stuart Copeland was probably thinking was big himself at that time.
Yeah, 1980 Tama Imperial Star. Nice. That was the deal. They came on strong. Tama did in the early 80s. Nice. Mostly with their hardware, and then they really started pushing their drums.
And then growing up, was what were your main influence? Was Stuart Copeland part of that as well?
Obviously, I think I was a sophomore when I heard my first Rush song.
Oh, there you go.
And that began a love affair that still goes on today with that band. I've never dropped off or fallen off as far as following them. I always bought every album. I saw them, I don't know, 15, 18 times.
Really?
Neil was, at that point as a kid, we were just enthralled with what he did on the drums.
Mm-hmm.
At that point also, I think Journey was big, so Steve Smith was right there. Van Halen was huge, so Alex was there. And John Bonham, I remember the day John Bonham died. I was in high school, and during the break, they would play they had a local radio station on, playing on a loudspeaker on all the common areas, and the DJ came on and said that John Bonham had passed away, and it was
oh man,
quite a somber moment there for a while.
Yeah.
Buddy was big too. Buddy Rich. We used to go down to Disneyland, and Buddy's band would play at Disneyland. And back early in the days, you didn't have to pay to get into the park. You could walk into the park, and if you wanted to ride rides, you had to buy a ticket book.
Huh.
So we would go down and just go into the park for nothing, and go to the Carnation Plaza, and Buddy's band would play at the Carnation Plaza. So I was fortunate enough at the time, didn't know it, to be able to see him play numerous times with his band live. And that was always a treat.
That's amazing. That's hard to kind of even think about. You just walking into Disneyland. But yeah, that's pretty crazy. You actually, on a side note, you grew up in Glendora as well, right?
Yes, I grew up in Southern California. In the town's called Glendora, up in the foothills of Southern California.
Yeah, my dad grew up there, and I always heard really cool stories about how that place was prospering and it was super clean. Just a nice place to be at the time.
It was a great town to grow up in as a kid and as a teenager in the late 70s, early 80s. It really was.
I imagine it's the centerpiece of all the cool stuff around it at the time.
Yeah.
So going after you've been influenced by them, what did that kind of influence you get into certain type of bands like Neil and all that? Were you going into the prog kind of direction? Or?
Yeah, somewhat. I always struggled with playing Neil's stuff because it was so intricate, and I think part of my problem was I practiced and I played a lot, but I don't think I had the 10,000 hour mentality to go about it like if you really want to do it. But I loved playing as much as I could, and I played in cover bands after I got out of high school, and a couple of original bands, and played around the area in Southern California. And this is the mid to late 80s, and this is when pay to play kind of became a big thing in Hollywood. You had to sell tickets if you wanted to play at Gazzari's or the Whiskey or some of these clubs, and so I went through that whole thing in the 80s, and with a very a band that was not very nobody remembers. I don't even remember them hardly, but we had fun. They were very underwhelming, but we had fun. Wrote the music and played and had a good time.
Yeah, at least you got to live to that time and that scene. A lot of people literally, look back at that and make movies and documentaries of that time and place. So that's pretty cool that you were there.
Yeah, I didn't have the ability, and maybe not ability. I just didn't have the will, I guess, to just drop everything and say, okay, I want to be a touring musician. I want to be a touring drummer. I didn't, at the time I got married, and we had a baby. We had one baby and one on the way, and I had to have a regular job in order to pay our bills. And so it just, the option of living in a van with 3 or 4 other guys just didn't appeal to me at the time.
Yeah, life happens pretty fast for everybody, so you never know.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, and then playing in Southern California, what were your favorite venues or memorable places that you enjoyed?
Oh, jeez, I can't even remember. Like I said, Gazzari's I think I played in there once or twice, and I think we played at the Whiskey. We were out on the east side of LA, out more towards San Bernardino County, so we played at some places around there. There was a little hole-in-the-wall dump place in Montclair called the Green Door.
I think that turned into a place called the Reflections. I think that's the same place that we grew up going to.
I don't know. It's long gone now. They've torn that whole thing down, and it's a shopping center now. But we used to go up to Mount Baldy Lodge and play at Mount Baldy Lodge. That was always kind of fun. Up on the mountain.
And then you came out to Phoenix a little bit later. Did you stay there for the majority of your life?
So in '93, I moved my family to Lake Havasu, and at that point, I think it was about 90 was when my son was born, and the band I was in that was playing, that was an original band, broke up, and my son was born, and I had the drum set up in the house, and every time I played it, he just came unglued. He just did not like that sound as a newborn.
Huh.
So I kind of put it away, and then we moved into a duplex, sold our house and moved into a duplex with the plans to move to Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And we moved to Arizona and moved in with my in-laws, and were there for a year and a half, built a house, and the drums were in storage, and they stayed in storage. And it was never a conscious effort or conscious thought to stop playing,
Mm-hmm.
but that's kind of what happened. And
Yeah,
so
the victim of
I lived in Lake Havasu for 19 years, didn't play the drums really at all for well over 20 years.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. It's kind of hard to, because you're a great drummer, so it's hard to hear that.
So I got divorced, and my kids were all grown. And in 2012, I moved to Phoenix with my wife,
Mm-hmm.
my new wife, and we knew each other as kids. And so she knew me as a drummer, and she was always, when we reconnected, she was always surprised that I had stopped playing, that I wasn't playing anymore. But we lived in a house out in Buckeye, and one day I heard drums playing, and I thought, man, I got a drum kit in storage somewhere. So I had a storage unit still in Lake Havasu, so I went in there one day and I grabbed them, and this was the Tama Imperial Star kit. Brought it back to the house and cleaned all the dirt and dust off of it and put new heads on it and set it up and started playing. And immediately it was like a switch. I just had this desire to keep doing it, and I didn't want to play, by myself in my living room. So I started hitting Craigslist and finding jam sessions and doing that. And that was in about March of 2013.
Oh, okay. And that's about the time I met you too. And it's funny you say that, because I live in Buckeye, so you may have even heard me at that time.
Yeah. Yeah,
like a full circle.
Yeah, there was a kid next door, and I thought he was down the neighborhood on the other side.
Oh, okay.
But the sound was coming off the wall and bouncing back at my house, and it turned out he was right next door. And he had the kit all set up backwards, and he had the bass drum backwards, and it sounded like trash cans. But
it wasn't me then.
it was sound that I needed to kind of spark a little interest in me, which then here I am today. Still a mediocre drummer, but loving playing and collecting and just being a part of the drummer world, especially in Phoenix.
Yeah, and that's one thing I was going to kind of guide us into is you're a big fan of DW drums and you collect quite a bit. Not to put you on the spot or anything, but yeah, I mean, a lot of people use you to reviews on drums and stuff. And how was it just DW all the way from day one, or did you kind of merge into that?
In 2013 in March, I had one drum kit and a small stack of old Zildjian cymbals and a couple of original Sabians from probably the first year they were in existence in 81 or whenever that was. Mm-hmm. And I decided right away that I wanted to get a new drum kit. I wanted something that was new and not 30 years old, 35 years old. So I started, looking, and I had heard about DW and I knew that they were a good product and they were American made. And so I actually went to Guitar Center where you were working and put a performance series. I put a performance series on layaway. I didn't have a whole lot of cash at the time. And I put it on layaway waiting for my tax return. Mm-hmm. And when that came, I picked the drums up, and then I bought a couple of add-on. I bought an 8-inch and a 14-inch add-on drum, so I had a 7-piece, and started gravitating completely towards Sabian at that point.
Yeah, and I remember it was the black Ebony.
Fell in love with. Say that again.
Oh, that was the black Ebony kit, correct?
That's a black Ebony. That's right.
Yeah.
Ebony stain, they call it. Yep.
And sorry to interrupt you. I just remember the
fell
color.
in love with DW right then, and the sound was incredible. I loved that they were American made, and that was it. I think about 6 months later, I went and toured the factory, and because I had been thinking about, okay, now I want to move into a collector series and I want to do an exotic. So I toured the factory, and when I was there, I went into Candyland, or the big room, and they had a whole bunch of kits set up.
Yeah.
And played a cherry kit, and I was hooked. And so I came home and ordered my exotic cherry kit, and got that the first part of 2015, I believe.
Yeah, I remember you bringing us in it. I remember seeing it when you first got it, and I was going, "Whoa," because you don't.
Yeah, I ordered it through Guitar Center. Gary Romero was the manager, and he gave me just a smoking deal, which they can't do anymore. Ray Arona ordered it all. We ordered it all up, and it turned out to be a great kit.
Yeah, and those are the kits you look at in magazines, and then when you see one in person, it's like a whole other thing. You know what I mean? And then hearing them, they're stunning. They're absolutely stunning. The workmanship that goes into their drums and their finishes, and just all the way around, they're just beautiful, beautiful drums. And so it got me hooked. And since that point, I think I have 6 DW kits now, and about 24 DW snares. I think I got one on order right now. So. And speaking of the snares, you just recently got that Neil Peart. It was I'm blinking out right now, but it was the one that was cut through. Help me here. The one that was only.
So John Aldridge, the engraved one.
You're talking about the engraved one. Sorry, blinking out there.
Yeah. No. So John Aldridge back in about April, and John Aldridge is the master engraver, drum engraver, and he posted some pictures of a drum that he had engraved for Lauren Wheaton, and Lauren was Neil Peart's 22-year, somewhere around there, drum tech for the last 22 years of his career.
Yeah.
And after Neil died in January, obviously, somebody actually commissioned it. Another drum tech had actually asked John, who's a drum tech himself, to do this drum for Lauren. So he posted pictures of it, and immediately I was in love. So I sent John a message right away, and I said, "Hey, how do I get one of these?" And he threw a price out there, and that was pretty astronomical, you'd think. And I didn't even balk. And I said, "Where do I send the money? Let's do it." The original one he did was the first one he did for Lauren was a pearl sensitone. But I wanted to use a DW, obviously, because of DW, obviously, and because Neil played DW for the last 20-something years. And the DW shell, the black nickel over brass shell, does not have a bead. And so that allowed his artwork to go unbroken all the way through the drum. That pearl sensitone, he has to stop that artwork at that bead. So I think it turned out to be a better looking drum. And there's a couple of little things that I added, that I had him add on there, a couple quotes that were my idea to kind of put my touch on the drum.
That's amazing. Did you ever play it, or is it just a top shelf snare for you?
You know what? I have a black nickel over brass. I have the exact same drum in an unengraved version. I could play that one, but I don't see a need to. I have another one. And John decided he's only going to build 12 or 10 of them. So there's only 10. Mine's number 2. And it's something that is, that can be down the road. We're talking an heirloom here, this thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and he actually initialed a C in it, right, for the current climate. I think that I was reading about it.
Yeah, what he did is I said, "Hey, John, make sure you sign it inside." And so he did, and then he put 20, and then he put a C on the inside, and he told me when he says, I put a C inside, which means the drum was engraved during the great COVID pandemic of 2020.
Damn, that's it. Yeah, that kind of makes it, timeless at that point. But you know what's cool about that company? You can literally reach out to John Good, and he'll get back to you. He's on top of it, and that's what it kind of makes you respect that company a lot more.
Without a doubt, I think people always talk about how DW is super popular and successful because of their marketing programs and their artist programs, which get artists to play their gear, and then youth want to emulate the artist. But I think honestly there is some marketing involved, but it's the people that run that company and that work for that company that treat every customer as though you're the only one.
Yeah.
I've talked numerous times with John Good and had good conversations with him. And he's always, when you talk to him, his attention is with you, and he has an interest in what you have to say, and he's just a good guy. I sent him an email one time to talk about a new kit, and I got an automatic reply that said, I'm on vacation. I'm out of town. I'll respond later. 20 minutes later, I got an email from him, and he said, "Hey, Randy, I'm on the Danube River floating down on a cruise. I took in my first vacation in 5 years. I'm sorry I can't get back to you right away, but I will get back to you. Let's talk later."
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, to me, here I am, just really a nobody, and he took time out of his vacation to answer an email to me, and he didn't have to do.
Yeah, you could easily pass that on to
That's the
somebody.
type of person he is, and that to me is why that company is a big, huge reason why they're so popular and successful.
And there was a recent documentary that was put out too. I forgot the name of it, but it had Neil on it.
Masters of Resonance.
There it is. Yeah. And I haven't got a chance to watch that, but I heard really good things about it.
It's actually a really good. It's about Neil's 40th anniversary kit that they built with the 1,500-year-old bog oak that came out of the river in Romania.
It's stuff you don't even know exists. He's making drums out of it.
It's basically about that drum kit and that wood.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, it's a well done documentary, and Neil's obviously a part of it, and John and Louis Garcia, the amazing artist painter that does so many beautiful paint jobs that you see on these drums that you'll see online. He's just an absolute master of his craft.
Well, speaking of drum makers, do you see any upcoming companies or any cool stuff that you've been keeping an eye on, snare wise or drum set wise?
I'll tell you, there's a couple. One out of San Diego called Doc Sweeney. Doc Sweeney makes some beautiful drums. He actually gets his shells made by a company right along the Idaho-Washington border called Cask Drum Company, and Cask does steam bent shells. Mm-hmm. They also do some staves, but most of their business is steam bent, and they do all different kinds of woods, and they do a really, really good job. And so Doc Sweeney, they buy their shells from Cask, and they put out some beautiful drums in mostly steam bent configurations, and they do maple, they do birch, they do ash, they do walnut, elm, all different kinds. I've got a snare from Doc Sweeney, and it's blonde walnut, and it's a beautiful drum. So they're a small company, but build just absolute beautiful drums.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check that out myself. And do you have any Craviotto stuff that you're playing, or ever checked into that stuff? I
have one Craviotto. I have the poor man's Craviotto snare drum. It was called the Johnny C model. They put it out for working drummers, quote unquote working drummers that necessarily can't afford or don't want to buy a $1,200, $1,400 Craviotto. It's a maple shell, steam bent maple shell. I got a used version, which happened to be signed by Johnny, which is nice because he's been gone a few years now. So anything from Craviotto now won't have his signature on it.
Yeah, that's another bummer there. But as you in your travels, is there any memorable drum shops you remember visiting, or you would recommend anyone checking out?
Drum shops. There's a lot of cool drum shops. Actually, a really cool one is Salt City Drums in Salt Lake, and they're in Salt Lake City. They have a lot of, pretty much most of their stuff is all high end. They don't have a bunch of old used Pearl Forums in their shop. They got all high end stuff. Mm-hmm. Another one was Forks Drum in Nashville.
Yeah, definitely heard that.
Really, 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 really cool shop. I brought home a Sonar Vintage Series snare drum from there when I was there.
Nice.
I went to Vic's in Chicago. It's not owned by Vic Salazar anymore, and I think they actually closed down. I was kind of underwhelmed when I was there. They just didn't have a whole lot. It was more of a rehearsal location that it looked like in a drum shop. But I've always wanted to go to Portsmouth and see Portsmouth Drum Shop. That's supposed to be almost like a museum also, and I haven't made it there yet. Someday I will. And Memphis Drum also. It looks like a really cool shop that I haven't been able to get into yet.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check those out myself. And kind of go fast forward on you. How'd you get in touch with the Phoenix area drum? Because you became a very respected member in that. How did that come about?
So I think I was piping up too much. I think I was commenting too much probably, and just throwing my 2 cents in on a lot of things. And so Matt, and I had met Matt, and he sent me a message and said, "Hey, he goes, I'd really like to have you help me moderate and admin the page, the Facebook page." Mm-hmm. And so I said, "Sure, no problem." So he put me on as a admin on the page, and then we collaborated more and more to kind of some of the things that have the events and things that we have had since then.
Nice. And that page has definitely turned into a cool thing. I get people telling me from out of state they don't see anything in their states like that, and that's pretty cool,
Yeah, that page is far more than a Facebook page. What started off as a Facebook page is now actually a working club, if you will. It's a group of, we've held clinics. We had the Drum Rumble last year. We've had events. We do swap meets a couple times a year. So it's not just a page that you can go look to stuff and talk to stuff on Facebook, but it actually has become a working organization. Yeah. And it's been a great thing. I mean, there's sometimes a guy will post on a Friday night at 7:30 and he says, "I got to my gig and I forgot my snare stand. Does anybody have one close?" And somebody will pipe in, and most of the time somebody's able to help somebody else out in an emergency because the page exists and because there's that camaraderie between everybody. I've loaned microphones and power cords and all kinds of things over the years, helping people out, and it's just a good feeling to be able to help somebody know that that they're getting through their gig because you got them a piece of equipment that they needed.
Yeah, it's definitely a circle of good karma there, so it goes both ways for everybody. So, and then currently you're playing in is it a top 40 cover band for Scarlet Fever is what you're doing currently?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't characterize it as a top 40 cover band.
Oh,
It's pretty much a biker classic rock band.
I apologize for that.
No, that's all right. That's fine. That's all good. It's they've got a demographic that the band kind of goes after, and it's bikers, and so we do a lot of bike events and clubs that kind of cater to bikers. But it's been a great thing because they're very well liked. They have lots of followers, and whenever we play someplace, there's lots of people that come that want to see the band. Probably one of the better, I would say, followed bands in the Phoenix area. And it's that demographic. It's basically bikers, but I
can relate to that stuff.
It's been fun, and people show up. The last band I was in previous, if I didn't bring 3, 4 people, there was only 5 people at the gig for the band, and it gets tiring sometimes to just try to get your friends to come all the time. And with this band, there's a built-in crowd, and sometimes you see different people every time. Sometimes the same people are there, but there's always a group of people, whether it's the same people or not. And that's always a fun situation to be a part of.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I'm happy that worked out in the better for you. But what's the best places to check out, you guys? What's your main venues you guys play through?
Right now,
well, no, obviously right now it's weird, but
yeah, no. We actually played last Saturday at Good Time Charlie's.
Oh, nice.
Down in Chandler. We typically play at Kimmy's, both Kimmy's locations in
nice.
Tatum Point and Greenway, and out at El Dorado in South Scottsdale. They've shut down, but they won't even. They're back open, but they won't have music till after the first of the year. They said, but those are typically the 4 main places. We're going to probably start getting back into Sage and Sand, and we're looking at a couple of other new places. But we do. Scarlet Fever does some events with Buffalo Chip that are tied in with Bike Week. We were supposed to play when Bike Week was canceled in March. It was moved to October, and we were going to play 2 weekends in a row, Saturdays and Sundays at Buffalo Chip. And now that literally, we just got the word that that's been canceled.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
And we do a Bikers for Boobies every year, a charity event for breast cancer. So there's those things, but those are typically the 4 or 5 places that we're at. Would be those once things get back going again.
Yeah, once you guys get out there, well, you are out there, but I'll come and definitely check you guys out. Been kind of jonesing for some live music.
Yeah, it's really fun. And I love rock music. I mean, I played jazz, played in the jazz band in high school, and played Birdland and all that kind of stuff. But rock has always been my love, and this band is right down that alley. I get to play Zeppelin and Guns N' Roses and just all that nice, fun, hard driving stuff, which is what I love to do.
And you definitely have the kit for it. That purple, I don't know. I think you call it the Purple Monster, but that acrylic kit is that thing is nice.
Purple Henry.
Oh,
Purple Henry. That's my purple. Yeah. 14 by 26. That whole drum kit is John Bonham sized. That kick drum definitely puts some thump out there.
Yeah, anyone listening in the Phoenix area, I definitely recommend you guys check these guys out and check that kit out. It's one of the best kits I've seen around. But hey, Randy, I just want to thank you for coming on. I know you're kind of overseas right now, and I really appreciate your time. So yeah,
absolutely.
And it helped me grow on the channel here and all that good stuff. So once again, thank you, Randy. If you enjoyed the show, please share with your friends. Thank you.